Warning: the following podcast contains graphic content that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Discretion is advised. The Papa Tango Delta Sierra podcast is available free of charge thanks to the support of Cracked Armor. Their mission is to raise awareness for PTSD, TBI, and mental health to support those who struggle. By creating an army of warriors who represent the gear, their hope is that it will send the message to others that they are not alone. Go to crackedarmor.com, say hi to Mark Long, read about the story, find some research information about PTSD, and support the cause by buying some gear.
(10-9). Did you say Papa Tango Sierra Delta? 10-4.
There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say, and I sing. Don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.
Welcome to the third episode of the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. My name is Larry Payton, and I have been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress. Before I get into talking about my story, I do just want to bring note to something that happened today. It was a normal day. I mean, everything was pretty straightforward. I've been off work since the first week of December, struggling with PTSD and some other shit that I really, at this point, I'm not ready to go into. It's now the 15th of February, and this afternoon, when I checked my cell phone, I saw that I'd received an email from my employer. I mean, the email wasn't bad. It was just about forms that needed to be filled out on account that I'm off due to illness. It also included a booklet, some information, and I mean, it's not that the email was aggressive or even daunting, but it hit me completely differently. It smacked me right across the face, actually. I've been doing so good since leaving work and making time for myself. My anger is down a lot, and my patience definitely increased. My alcohol consumption is down. My exercise is way up compared to what it used to be. As I've previously mentioned, I'm now doing yoga, meditation. I see my psychologist every week, and I have monthly appointments with my family doctor. Things have been going good. But when that email came through today, it almost fucking paralyzed me. Which is just, I don't even know what to say, what to think about it. My anxiety skyrocketed. And I felt totally fucked. As if I had not been away for a single day. I tried to progress with my anxiety already skyrocketed. Just went about doing some chores around the house. Because if my mind is busy, then I'm not thinking, which is a good thing. But as soon as I sat down from doing chores, that's when it all really hit home. Crown of my head went numb, kind of like pins and needles in it. My tinnitus, super loud. I could tell that I was zoning out. Things were just sort of getting blurry and my eyes were just fixated. And my breathing became labored. I just sat there, completely in shambles, like in a fucking panic attack about an email that came through. I mean, the reason I'm sharing this with you today is despite the fact that I felt like I'm doing great, that I'm really coming along, that I'm pretty much ready to rock and roll. Apparently, I'm not even close. I was afraid today. It felt shitty to feel that stress again. It felt shitty to feel shitty. And all I wanted to do was go pour a drink and just make myself feel better again. But that's how things happened before. And I know that's not the right way to deal with it. I guess what I'm trying to tell you all is that well, fucking PTSD sucks, but we know that. It just stays there. It lurks in the shadows. I feel it's left. I feel it's gone. Or I feel at the very least I've got it under control. Not at all. That email today totally threw me off. And it was nothing. Yeah, I've got a long way to go. But doing this podcast is part of my therapy. Makes me feel good to be able to talk to you, even though right now I'm sitting in my little studio, all alone. but I feel like I'm talking to you because I feel like once this gets published, you'll be listening. And I do really appreciate you listening. And so if this is your first time, welcome to the show. There's a couple of episodes before this one. Go back and check them out. They're really good. If you've already listened to the show before, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. Bang me out a DM. Tell me you checked it out. Let me know your thoughts about it. If there's things you think I should do better, or topics I should approach, or whatever. Take a moment to rate the show or even write a review on it. Whether you use Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, let me know. If you're enjoying it and you're loving it, great. If you hate it, great. And I reckon if you don't like it, well, you can just stop fucking listening. Pretty easy, eh? So let me tell you a little bit more about me and about what brought me to where I am today. When I was a kid, all I remember is my dad being a cop. That's what he was. The day I was born, he was a police officer. Served 30 years with the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. Never once in his life carried a sidearm while on duty. Old school policing in St. John's, Newfoundland. I remember him coming home, and most days he seemed quiet. Maybe a little agitated, but not serious. Just quiet. Didn't really want to talk about things. Some days he came home and he seemed really happy and in a great mood. I remember my brother and I getting called out of class. We're like, what the hell did we do? Why are we in shit? Down to the principal's office, and it was our dad on the phone. Just wanted to hear our voice, make sure we were okay. Of course we're okay, Dad. We're at school. Why would you not think we're okay? Because I needed to hear your voice, and I just wanted to make sure you're okay. So I love you. Go back to class. At the time, I thought that was just fucking weird. Why is he doing this? I know as well that he struggled with things. I mean, let me rephrase that. I now know that he struggled with things. And I don't believe at the time that he realized he was struggling, nor did anyone else. But it certainly wasn't a time that PTSD was spoken of. Hell no. Shit, it wasn't spoken of when I joined the force, let alone when he was in. I won't go into a bunch with Dad. That's his story. It's not for me to share. Other than, brother and I certainly always looked up to him. My childhood, I just wanted to know what he knew. I wanted him to talk to me about it. Tell me, what did you see? What did you do today? Did you catch any bad guys? Were you in a chase in a car? We'd never talk about it, ever. Just wouldn't talk about it. So I spent my entire childhood and into my early adulthood just really wanting to know what he knew. So I became a cop. I was sent out west, and I worked. And about 8 months into the job, I no longer wanted to know what he knew. Because I knew it myself by that point. But the problem is, when you know, it's too late. You can't unknow. You can't return back to that ignorance is bliss. You just are now forever changed. And at the time, I didn't necessarily think it was a super bad thing. I didn't want to know, but I did. It's what I signed up for. It's my job. I'm going to go do my job. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. But it catches up on you. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's likely because at some point in your career, whatever it was you did, it caught up with you. It's funny how I spent so much of my life wanting to know. And now I spend so much wishing I never did. We'll take a quick break. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you have experience with post-traumatic stress and would like to join me for an episode, please reach out to me. You can contact me via direct message on Instagram, PTSD_podcast, or you can send me an email at Papa Tango Sierra Delta Podcast @gmail.com. Cheers. This episode of the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast is brought to you thanks to the support and financial sponsorship of Cracked Armor. Go to crackedarmor.com, read the story, buy the gear, wear it to send a message to others who are struggling that they're not alone. Also to Willow Tree Farms, care of Jason Sobkowicz, another member who is struggling with PTSD and who updates his Instagram frequently to share his story. You can follow him at Jason SOBKOWICZ. We are back from the break. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast. I am very, very happy to invite our guest today. His name is Sach, and he is from out in British Columbia, certainly going to the other side of the country from the last time. How's it going today?
It's going great, brother. I'm just looking outside my window. It's a nice sunny day here in the Vancouver area, so can't complain. And where exactly are you?
I'm based out of Nova Scotia, just outside Halifax.
Nice.
Yeah,
man. I've been to Halifax once. It's been some years, but when I was there, I liked it. It was nice.
Well, I have a funny feeling that by the time this conversation's over, you're going to tell me about another time you might be coming to Halifax.
Yeah.
Tell us your story, man. Tell us your journey.
Yeah, man. So my name is Sach, and for the last 18 years, I've been working in law enforcement. I work for the Canada Border Services Agency and Canine handler. And so for the last 18 years, I've been doing that. But through the last, let's say, 5 years, I've been dealing with my own sort of, personal issues, mental health issues. And the pandemic, obviously, it affected many people. I wasn't any exception. So I guess what people might know me about a little bit is that I've been running quite a bit over the last couple of years. And over the last 2 years, I've been able to run ultra marathons, which are basically 50 kilometers or more. And I've been doing these not just for myself, but to also raise awareness and funds for first responders, veterans, and emergency personnel dealing with occupational stress injuries or PTSD or any other sort of mental health issues. And I've been raising money for a charity this year and last year, I've been raising money for a charity called the Honor House Society. They support all veterans, first responders, and emergency personnel with, like I said, occupational stress injuries. And basically they can come stay at their location in Westminster or at their ranch in Ashcroft to get their treatment. So yeah, over the last 2 years, I've been doing that, raised about $50,000 by just running.
It's absolutely amazing.
In a nutshell, that's kind of who I am and what I do. Yeah,
I mean, that's amazing. I obviously want to dig deeper into that. You didn't just wake up one morning and decide this is what you were going to do. What led you to this path?
Oh, yeah, no. That's a great question. No, most definitely. I didn't wake up saying, yeah, I want to go for a run. I hated running.
Right, yeah.
So just for your listeners, I'm 45 and I'd started running 2 years ago. So the last time I ran was in high school, really, actually ran. People run from the mailbox to the house or something like that, but actual running was really last time was in high school. And what precipitated that was basically my own struggles. So let's see, I was going through a separation and divorce. It was about 3-4 years ago. And I'd like to kind of reference it by saying I was the squeaky wheel in the marriage. I wasn't really a good husband, to be honest. So basically what had happened was I was presented with the type of person that I was. And I was looking myself in the mirror a few years ago and I wasn't happy with the type of person I was. I mean, not that I was an evil or terrible person, but I always want to do better and I always want to be a better version of myself. So at the time, I just wasn't happy. And not that I had any sort of real understanding of how to do things better, or how to do life better. I had no clue. So I was pretty lost and pretty broken, I guess you could say. Anyways, long story short, through that process, I was struggling quite a bit. I ended up moving into the basement suite of the house that I had bought with my ex-wife, just to make sure that we could kind of co-parent, at least during the pandemic, the best we could, given the circumstances. But as you can imagine, that wasn't the best environment for me or for my ex-wife, to be honest. But we made the best of it. But for me, what I was trying to do was trying to find ways to, get out of the depression and darkness that I was in, because I was feeling pretty terrible, guilty. I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of really just guilt. I just didn't feel like a good person. It wasn't only because of how I managed through my marriage, but just reflecting on my life as a whole.
Okay.
Because I wanted to reflect on my life, because I was given the time to do that because of the pandemic, and I had a lot of extra time. So I started reflecting, and I started trying to figure out how to do things better. One sort of step I took in the right direction was buying a book called Extreme Ownership. And it was written by Jocko Willink, who's a retired Navy SEAL, basically a leadership trainer. I read that book cover to cover, and it helped me give some sort of understanding of how to own some stuff that I've done in my life instead of blaming other people for things or like deflecting or whatever, right?
That's awesome.
So I started the process of owning things. That's where I started developing a little bit of breathing room so I could start moving forward. So having said that, I started owning things, and then I had bought another book called Can't Hurt Me, which was written by David Goggins. And he's another retired Navy SEAL motivational speaker, but he's also an ultra endurance athlete. And I read the first couple of chapters of his book, and truth be told, I didn't read the whole book. I just read the first couple of chapters, and it resonated with me. And it resonated so much because I could relate to some of his childhood experiences and how he felt. So the underlying message I received from that book was do difficult things, right? And to me at that time, that meant running. Mind you, I interpret that book very differently now, but at the time I was kind of really self-absorbed at the time, and I just couldn't really see past myself.
Okay.
So anyway, so long story short, I started running, and I scheduled myself to run, 3-5Ks a week, and I kind of started doing that, and started seeing some progression, and over a period of I don't know, maybe a year, let's say 8 months to a year, I started really progressing to a point where I was like, oh, wait a second, I can probably do something for positive, like leverage what I'm doing for positivity. And I don't know why. I don't know where the idea came from. It just came out of thin air. I don't know. But I just said, I want to run 100K, 100 kilometers, and I wanted to raise money for BC Yukon Legion, Yukon Command, for PTSD programs for veterans and RCMP members. So what I ended up doing was training for almost a year, and I ran from the Pacific Regional Training Center in Chilliwack, British Columbia, to the Vancouver International Airport, which is in exactly 100 kilometers.
Wow.
And I ran that.
Wow.
I ran that. Yeah. Tell me about it. I look back at it now, sometimes I'm like, holy moly, man, I can't believe I did that.
Wow.
Considering where I was mentally at the time, and considering physically, like I'm an entirely different human being right now than I was then.
Right.
I'm surprised I was able to execute against that, to be honest. I ended up running that in just under 15 hours, ended up raising $21,000 for the BC Yukon Legion.
It's amazing.
For their programs.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, man, that really changed my perspective on life, like a really significant paradigm shift. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I was doing I didn't want to do anymore, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that's an absolutely fantastic way to put it. I love that. Yeah.
I just didn't know which direction to go in, but I knew for sure I didn't want to work in the same type of environment I had been working for 18 years. Not because it was I was around bad people or it's not good or this, that, and the other. I just felt like I wasn't meant to do that anymore. But having said that, after I had run that 100K, it was on November 7th, 2021. After I'd done that, I was pretty lost still. Like I was pretty, really depressed still.
Yeah. Most
of my friends for the last 18 years through law enforcement, friends that you make, you just kind of just stop connecting. And I was really alone and isolated. And I'm sure your listeners can relate to what I'm talking about. Man, if I were to think about it, like if I really stop and thinking about it, it would be really emotional for me to even think about. So it was super depressing. And I was just trying to find people to connect with, man. Like I know that I'm not different than anyone else. I know I'm not unique. But at that time, I felt very isolated, and I felt very I couldn't relate to anyone because I'm doing this sort of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was trying to find people that I thought I could relate with. So I have a friend of mine here in the Lower Mainland. His name is Sebastian Lavoie, and he's a retired member of the RCMP, 19 years in, I think. And he was also, he retired, I guess, the last few years. He was E Division Sergeant Major. And before that, he was on the teams, he was ERT for, I believe, 12 years, and he was team leader for about 7. So I met with him, and after he retired, he became a performance coach and motivational speaker and things of that nature. And talks on resilience and resiliency. And
Right.
And so I met with him and chatted with him for some time. And I've known him for way before I started going through my troubles, but I wouldn't, chat with him from time to time because felt that I could relate to someone like him. And through social media, and he's got a fairly large social media presence. I had seen that he also had a friend on social media named Sean Taylor. So I started, tracking these different people on social media, Instagram, I'd say, hey, who are these people? Maybe I can connect with these types of people, right?
Absolutely, man.
So I saw this Sean Taylor fella, and I went to his IG bio and I start reading it. And it says tier 1 operator, JTF2, yada, 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 all this kind of stuff, right? And I know what a JTF2 tier 1 operator is. And so I was like, oh, shit, okay, let me see what's going on over here. So I started tracking him a bit more, and he and I started communicating, and just through social media, DMing here and there. He's retired, mind you. He's not I think he's about 60 now. And he lives in the Rosslyn, British Columbia area. It's about 10 hours from where I'm at, in the mountains of BC.
Okay.
A small little town. I think it's about 2,000-3,000 people or something. So, I was tracking him. He's a fairly interesting fella. So, his Instagram page is kind of cool. And in December of 2021, a month after I'd run that 100K, I had seen that my friends Seb and Sean were going to Haiti, do some consulting work. And they had returned back from Haiti. And Sebastian, he lives in the Lower Mainland, so he went off home. And Sean was at the airport. And at that time, in December of 2021, there was a big snowstorm in the Vancouver area, which is fairly rare. So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it is that rare. I remember.
Yeah. So his flight to Rosslyn was canceled. So and he likes to, post on his stories and whatnot on his Instagram. So he posted something saying, he's going for a coffee or whatever, right? So I saw that and I hit him up. I go, hey man, I'm at the airport. You want to go for a coffee or a beer or whatever, right?
Right.
So long story short, we ended up meeting up, and 30 minutes turned into about a 3-hour conversation. I mean, I ended up finding someone that was pretty amazing, and what we ended up doing is we developed a relationship and a connection, a couple friends, and he saw that I could use some help. So he offered some of his time. I'd say for about 2 or 3 months, just about every single day, we would Zoom chat each other for 2 or 3 hours, and then eventually got to every week. And basically, he was just a friend that we would chat, like almost over coffee. Oh, actually, kind of like what we're doing right now, to be honest. Just talking and chatting.
Yeah, like-minded people being able to talk about things in common.
Right. So we were just chatting, and whenever he would hear something that I would say that maybe he could give me a different perspective on, he would do that. And over a period of time, he got to know who I was, and I got to know who he was. And he essentially wasn't just a JTF2, he was also a plank holder. So when the teams was created, he was one of the first people selected to join JTF2 when it was first made. So he was also, master sniper, airborne, all the things, right?
Wow.
And he retired as a warrant officer. But after he retired, he also became a businessman, did various other things, and eventually became an elite performance coach for high performance athletes. Through that, we had also a common bond where we could talk about fitness, and not just fitness, but like the nuance of it and how to perform better and do things better, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So over that time, he helped me realize, and this is probably something that's super important for a lot of listeners, I would suspect, is he helped me turn down the white noise in my head and identify my purpose and why. So like my why, how people talk about, well, what's your why, this, that, and the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was instrumental in helping me identify that. And since that happened, I've just been executing against my why for about a year. So what does that mean? Well, pretty much my why is doing what I'm doing, trying to make myself a better person, maximizing my skill sets, the best of my ability every single day for the people around me, by extension through social media. So that's what my purpose is. So in work on myself, be the best version of myself, and in parallel help others.
There you go.
at the same time. So what I did in 2022, after I had run that 100K, I was like, you know what? I want to get after it some more. How can I do this more? And how can I get better at what I'm doing? How can I become a better runner? Not just do these runs, but if I did that one run with like pretty much off the couch kind of thing, what can I do if I go all in?
Yeah.
What can I do if I put all my energy into this one area? That's what I started asking myself. And, you know, you read books and you hear podcasts with Jordan Peterson on it and these other types of intellectuals. And fundamentally, they say that's all they say. Go all in, see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I started doing. So in 2022, I scheduled myself to do an ultra marathon every month from March all the way to November. Also to raise awareness for the Honor House Society and the purpose of why we're doing this. It's to raise awareness for mental health for first responders and veterans and emergency personnel, because a lot of us seem to get forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And everyone thinks that we're all taken care of and that the government takes care of us and this, that, and the other. But the reality is
not true.
That we aren't. And there's a need for people like me or others to do what they're doing. So that's kind of what I set myself to do. And through that process, I've been trying to also expand my reach so we can get that reach out more, so we can tell more people about what we're trying to do. What I ended up doing for last year is I ended up raising almost $15,000 for the Honor House Society just through running, just through my Instagram account.
Wow.
So it was almost one level above what I did the year before. And now I'm just going to expand that even further now. So for this year, my goal is to run across the province of British Columbia. So in August of this year, I'm going to run, and we're still working on the logistics and whatnot, but it'll roughly be about a marathon a day for about 3 weeks.
Oh.
So, but you know, it sounds crazy, and you know, maybe for some people, maybe for some people it does.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm excited, man. I'm like, yeah, let's get after it. You know, it's not just doing that run. I've been training for it for some months now, right? So it's also thinking, you know, building a team of experts, subject matter experts, on how to help me get to where I need to. So it's all a fun process now. But yeah, so the goal is to run across the province, and not only to raise money for Honor House, but also to raise the awareness that, hey, listen, BC has forest fires like crazy. I'm going to be running in August. It's going to be a shit show, right? And
that's true. That's absolutely true.
And the reason why I'm deciding this is because those firefighters in the province of British Columbia have been fighting fires when the fire season happens, day and night. Like, they're fighting it all the time. And they're fighting it without even worrying about their own homes. So a lot of these firefighters have been rendered homeless because they're out fighting the fires for others, and their own homes have been burnt down. So, you know, part of the reason why I also want to do this is to raise that awareness piece. We're going to be stopping in various different towns across the province to not just run, but to also meet with people, connect with some people, try to, I don't know, do whatever we can to help, right? That's the goal from that perspective in terms of the physical part.
That's fantastic that you're taking the time to stop and talk as well. I mean, I wasn't aware there was firefighters in British Columbia who lost their houses and are homeless because of the needs of their profession and their vocation. That's very, very difficult. I mean, it just speaks volumes about what those men and women are willing to do and have done to protect others. And I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So the fact, that you're raising money for this it's awesome, and you're bringing awareness to it. But again, I just wanted to touch on the fact that you actually want to make the time as well to stop and to talk. And I mean, ultimately that's the concept behind this entire podcast, is just to stop and to talk. And I tip my hat to you. I do. I tip my hat to you, sir. I think that's absolutely, you really do get it. And, and that's great.
Listen, man, I appreciate the kudos. Absolutely do. But the way I kind of look at it is like, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, right? That's kind of how I think of it. And I look at it like my job is to do this now. Look, I didn't even know that there were firefighters homeless. Honor House Society was telling me about it. They were saying, hey, man, we need to stop at some of these places to raise the awareness, to do this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, I didn't even know. And I live in the province.
Yeah.
You know, so if and
Unbelievable.
I'm like balls deep in all this kind of stuff. If I didn't know, I mean, shit, who else is like, who's going to know?
It's just not out
Right.
there. Yeah, it's not being shared enough, obviously,
Right.
right? The word, it's just not being shared. Yeah.
So
Very typical, very
sure,
typical that
it is.
shit is
Yeah.
happening and not being shared to first responders or military or yeah, absolutely.
So I'm the type of person now where I'm not waiting on anybody to find a solution. I'm just figuring out my own solution, the best way I can do it. And I look at myself almost like a force multiplier, right? I'm just a guy doing a thing. If I can galvanize more people together, then everyone's going to find out. Everyone's going to know about everything. So my goal, and truth be told, my goal isn't yearly. My goal has been a 5 and 10 year project. I started my goal 2 years ago. My goal in 2025 is to run across the country. My goal is to break the record for the fastest run across Canada.
Whoa. Okay. Did you just say your goal is to run across the country?
Yeah.
That had my mind blown and I was trying to stop you. And then you said it's actually to break the record.
Yes.
Is that, am I hearing this correctly or is there something wrong with my headphones?
Well,
I just want to make sure.
You know what? I mean, fair play. But no, absolutely right.
Man, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, brother. I mean, that's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, man. I'm telling you, some days I don't believe that I'm training to try to do this because just a couple of years ago, I couldn't even run 5K. The story is this. It's not about me. It's about what we're all capable of doing, just with the right people around us and with the right support. Honestly, it's not even like I'm not that special compared to anybody. I just had the right people around me. I try to reach out to get the information. I wasn't sitting around. I was trying to actively be part of the process of trying to heal myself. And through that, help other people. Anyone can do that. I just found the means of doing it through fitness because I'm an athlete.
Right.
That's just what I do. But I'm not any different than anyone else. In perspective, I don't even know if I can break the record. The record to run across Canada, just for the listeners, once I tell you, you're going to be holy crow. From coast to coast, 7,300 kilometers, right?
Wow.
So 7,300 kilometers, the current record is held by Dave Proctor from Alberta. He set it last year.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And before that, it was set by Al Howie. He had done it in 72 days. And that was done in 80s. So Dave Proctor smashed it in last summer. He did it in 67 days, 10 hours.
Wow.
So he destroyed the record by 5 days, right? And Dave Proctor is an amazing athlete, but he's an ultra endurance athlete for his entire life. This is what he's been doing.
Right.
This is who he is. I'm an athlete who's trying to see what's possible. I've never done this before. I've never done ultra endurance running. Like first time I did a marathon was last year. And I've only done one marathon, like a race.
Jesus.
I'm just an athlete with the right people around me and trying to put all my effort in one area. And I just want to see what's possible. I'm setting a goal for breaking the record. I don't know if I can do it, but I sure as heck going to get close. And I sure am going to connect with amazing people along the way. And I'm sure going to raise a shit ton of money and awareness for people. So it's a win-win either way. Man, I can't wait.
Absolutely. It's a win-win. I mean, the record is definitively a cherry on top, but I say it like that because there is so much goodness under that cherry on top, just in terms of actually training, like you said, to do it. I want to kind of bring this all together almost as a recapture. You are dealing with depression. You're dealing with a lot of issues. You know you're capable of better. You really start introspecting. And in part of your introspection, you start looking out to find like-minded people you could listen to their word, appreciate their experiences, learn from them. You do that. You make some very key connections, especially one in particular. And from there, you come to the conclusion that the best way to deal with your mental health is to push yourself in an athletic manner to see just how far you are truly capable of going.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is absolutely amazing. I'm looking here on your site now, which is in Sachinmotion, so SACHINMOTION.ca. And it says you've recently dedicated your life to endurance training and hopes to accomplish a goal of beating the world record run across Canada. As you train and run several ultramarathons per year, you advocate and raise awareness for first responders and veterans experiencing mental illness and PTSD. That's amazing. I mean, that is something that really needs to get out there and be shared.
I think so, man. Look, I know, pretty much probably all of your listeners and future listeners are going to know that. Look, man, the services that are available for first responders and veterans aren't probably where they should be, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not a type of guy who's going to get into politics and, whatever.
No.
It's not my thing. I just try to find a way where I can find a solution that I can fit into. And instead of me talking about whomever, I've tried to find a way how I can best solve a solution with my skill sets. And I don't know if I can solve one, but I can at least be part of the conversation, and I can be part of the solution with a whole ton of other people. And then over time, then maybe we can have a difference. Look, my goal fundamentally is to do for mental health what Terry Fox did for cancer. Now, if I can play a small 1% role in that, then, man, I can die a happy man.
Wow, yeah.
If I can do 1% of Terry Fox, here's the perspective. This is what I was thinking about at the very beginning. Look, man, I can run for so long, but when I'm dead and gone, what's going to happen, right? I want to be able to still continue certain things. Now, if you look at Terry Fox's legacy, he's been dead for 40 years. And since his death, over $1 billion worth of money has been generated for cancer research. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a legacy.
It's for the entire country. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Right? So if I can play a small part in trying to do something like that for mental health, not just for first responders, because look, the reality is we're all affected by it. First responders are married to civilians. Veterans are married to civilians. Everyone's affected.
Yes.
And I think I have the steps in place to kind of galvanize as many people as possible. I'm using social media like it's going out of style. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I've started a YouTube channel. We're going to be investing a ton of money over the next 2 years in the YouTube channel to grow it, to follow the journeys that I'll be taking, and then also highlight individuals that I come in contact with, interview them, show their experiences. Also, with this YouTube channel, the entire goal is to generate 1 million subscribers on that within 5 years. With the money that's generated from that, we can reinvest it into the community. So for your listeners who may not be that savvy to social media, listen, 1 million subscribers on YouTube generates in and around $500,000 and $600,000 a year through Google ad revenue sharing, right? So now, how does one create that kind of subscriber base? Well, I don't know. All I know is what makes sense to me, and what I'd want to follow is someone who's authentic, someone who's doing something good, a channel where I can learn something from, be inspired by, and then also know that if I'm subscribing to that channel, money will be donated to the community as well. So over the next 5 years, that's what I'll be doing. All my energy is going to be focused in trying to develop that platform as much as I can, so that eventually we can just have a platform that it's the reason why I'm saying this is we look to the States all the time, right? We look at the United States, we look at various different people in the United States, follow different people, different YouTube channels, all this kind of stuff. We have those people here. We have those people in Canada, right? Yep. And I think we need to highlight those people in Canada. And then for me, what that does, it gives people something to strive for in Canada. It gives people, not just being mediocre. We can be better, and we can move forward. We can be amazing, and we can do it all in our own backyards. That's also part of the vision.
Wow. I mean, wow.
All I want to do, man, is continue doing what I'm doing every single day, which is talking to people like you, go out and train for an hour or two, and then see if I can help somebody with whatever skill set that I have in terms of raising money. I want to read something to you, and bear with me if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
I never graduated university. Okay. And not that that's a big deal, but in my family it was a big deal. my dad was
I understand
my
that.
dad was a highly educated person, master's in electrical engineering, this, that, and the other. And so for me, it was a big focus, but I never did. But I received something from the honorary colonel of Honor Society. He's
Okay.
honorary colonel of 15th Field Artillery Regiment, Alan DeGenova. And he's basically the chairman of Honor House Society. And I want to read this letter to you if you guys don't mind. So
Absolutely.
It's not super long, but it's long enough. But I'll read it to you, and if I start crying, don't mind me.
Okay, brother.
So it says, Dear Sachin, I'm writing to let you know how deeply grateful I am to you for the astounding lengths that you went to recently to raise funds for us here at Honor House Society as part of this year's Run to Remember. When I heard that you were running from the PRTC in Chilliwack all the way to Honor House in New Westminster to raise funds and awareness for positive mental health, I was in absolute awe of your incredible efforts. To then hear that you will be running from Honor Ranch to Honor House to help raise funds again in 23 truly blew me away. And then I told him what my real plan is, and he was floored. Anyway, I would like to offer you the full backing of our board, staff, and volunteers next year to help with this incredible endeavor. I am absolutely certain that we can help to generate a huge amount of interest and support for this wonderful and inspirational feat of endurance. Thanks to the help that we receive from incredible people like you, we are very confident that the ranch will save many lives over the coming years, and Honor House will continue to provide a home away from home for some of our bravest Canadian families. Your fantastic donation of over $14,000 will go towards ensuring that we are able to assist as many of our veterans and military personnel and emergency service members as possible. Once again, I would like to offer my most heartfelt thanks to you for working so hard to help us make a positive change in the lives of those who sacrifice so much unconditionally to keep us all safe from harm each and every day. I look forward to meeting you at the ranch in spring so that we can thank you in person. So for me, I received a PhD. I don't need a degree. That's good enough for me, man.
I could not agree more. I mean, that's a reality of, I mean, I don't have the words, and it's not very often I can say that, but I don't have the words.
Yeah, man. I mean, every time I read that thing, I start crying.
Yeah. Very, very well deserved. I mean, it's amazing what you've done in such a short amount of time. And I just love that you're not near satisfied yet. You're happy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I can sense that about you, but you truly as well don't believe you've yet hit the best you can do.
I appreciate you saying that. And here's the thing, our best, whatever that is, can always be improved upon. So I did my best last year.
Right.
Like absolutely did my best.
Right.
I'm not within that. Okay. Oh, that's okay. I did my best. Cool. I did my best. How can we improve upon it? Okay. So now that's what I started asking myself. And based on what we've created over the last year, now I've inspired others. So not just through social media, but I've inspired people around me. So I'm so blessed that I've been signed by a supplement company called Magnum Nutraceuticals, a very big company. Mm-hmm. They've been extremely supportive in my journey. They were the first large company to back me in the sense of believing in me when no one else gave a shit.
That's awesome.
And I'm blessed because they have resources. I have a strength and conditioning coach now, and his name is Jake Doan, and he's also a Magnum athlete, but he's also trained like NBA professionals when he used to live in the States. Like he's done a lot of amazing things. And so he's my strength and conditioning coach now, and he's volunteering his services because I can't afford it.
Wow.
I'm
right.
Someone who's transitioning out of my work. So I don't have funds.
Right.
And all of what I do is all based off of either volunteers or my own money. Some people may think I have sponsorships and all this. I don't have anything. I'm just doing my thing, and moving in a direction, hoping, maybe some corporations will be inspired to help and tag along with this journey.
How can companies get involved? Because this is the ground time now to get involved for what is going to be a huge thing in 2025. Absolutely. What do they need to do to get involved?
Okay, so to start up, I have a sponsorship profile, a package that I've been given to various different corporations so that they can get interested. And a lot of it is I'm cold calling people. And what I'm trying to suggest to people is, look, I'm not asking for a one-way street here. It's a two-way street. If someone wants to align themselves with a goal and a mission that will be helpful for others, and then also how I can align myself with that company. So say, for example, there's a company that wants to corporate sponsor my run across the province, right? Because logistically, that'll cost money. Well, now I can say, let's say company X wants to sponsor by donating $5,000, let's just say, right? Well, that $5,000, now we can have a conversation with that corporation. How best would you like us to utilize, promote you with the means that we have? So I would have a conversation with these companies, how I could also benefit them through my platforms, through my connections, how we can benefit each other. And this is not about self-interest. It's not about me making money. Guaranteed, I haven't made a dime. And I don't think I've ever been happier in my entire life, to be honest, because I'm living in my purpose.
That's great.
Doing what I'm meant to do.
Well, that's the key. I mean, let's be honest. It's about trying to find that, and whatever that may be, I truly believe that you have found that. And I mean, that's a lifelong search. Purpose, it can be a lifelong search for people, and that many don't ever really achieve. I feel that a problem, and again, I'm not going to get political, but I feel that a problem with a lot of first responders that don't last long after retirement is because they just lost what they believed was their purpose. And there's so much more than the job. I've said it before and I tip my hat. It's a fantastic position. And as much as anyone could say it's an enviable position, the reality is that you did that for yourself. It's not that someone stepped down and threw everything to you. Really, you walked through the fire yourself, identifying that there's an issue and trying to do your best to figure out what you could do to, I guess, rectify your issue and give back. And that's amazing.
No, for sure. And I don't want to sound like everything's hunky-dory because, things are still struggle, but I have better tools at my disposal now to manage through them.
Okay.
But I also want people to understand, like, oh man, I understand the struggle. Like, I get it. Like, I was a hot mess. And if I wasn't doing the things that, like, in terms of reaching out, trying to find the right people for me, it would have been a wrap. Like turn left 5 degrees and I would have been messed. You know what I mean? So, like, I understand the darkness. I understand the depression. I understand the not wanting to do shit. Like, I get it. And I've sacrificed a lot to be able to continue on this path. And the sacrifices all have been necessary for me to become the person that I hope to be eventually, right? But those were things that were holding me down. Those were things that I thought I needed to be the person who I was. I had that sense of delusionment from work. 18 years, man, I can relate to not feeling valued. I can relate to feeling I wasn't utilized the best way or whatever, right? There's all kinds of whatever things, right?
Right.
But the reality is no one owes me a damn thing. No one owes me a fucking thing.
Right.
I got to create everything. If I want to live a life that I want to live, no one's going to give that for me. So the reality is if I want to live a life that I can be a professional athlete every single day and help people, I got to figure out how to make that happen. No one's going to tell me how to do that. No one's going to give that to me. I'm 45 and I want to be a professional athlete. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right?
I mean, you're doing this to a 45-year-old body too. I mean, this is not a 25-year-old that's going to do this. Listen, I need to bring this up because it's in very large text on your site for a reason. And it's a fantastic quote. It's Cyrillic, is that right?
Yeah.
2003. Yeah. The quote is as follows, and I guess I would like you to speak to that.
Sure.
Resilience is not only the absence of post-traumatic stress after a traumatic experience, but also an individual's ability to take something positive from adversity.
Mm-hmm. So for me, what that means is I created an environment for myself which was adverse. I was an active participant in my life, right? So that means where I found myself, I created in part that environment. Now, let's say going through a divorce, I could be depressed and upset and shitty and start drinking and be like, fuck my life, this, that, and the other. I'm going to go out party, this, whatever, right? Or I could take all of it and be like, okay, I need to look at myself in the mirror and take inventory of who I am. And where do I need to start focusing and developing and start moving in a direction that I can start becoming a person that I want to be. That takes time. That takes years. That'll take the rest of my life. It doesn't take a year. It doesn't take 2. It takes forever. Like literally the rest of my life.
Right. That's right.
So that's kind of how I look at that. That was super hard. Like looking at especially my ego is out of control. Like I never thought I was but the reality was I thought I was the shit. Yeah, I was a bodybuilder, right. This, that, and the other, jiu-jitsu, this, that, and like all these things. I thought it was, I think I know what I'm doing. But I really didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And I think how I interpret that quote is you become resilient when you take the negative and move through it anyway and develop through it. And what I've learned over the last 3 years, and anybody that you would talk to that knows me for, let's say, 5 years and consistently has interacted with me, they would say to you right now that I'm an entirely different human being. I speak differently, I interact differently, I talk differently. Part of the reason for that is, as I understand it, your brain can't tell the difference between mental stress and physical stress. So if you're having mental stress, typically, a lot of people start drinking, right?
Yes.
And what that ends up doing, let's say you have a bad day, you have a psychosomatic event, and you're like, oh man, I need a drink. I need to square myself away, just chill out. What you've done in that moment is taken away an opportunity to develop resilience. Because as soon as you drink after a psychosomatic event, you're depriving your body to heal, your brain to heal. So now let's look at the physical part. Your brain can't distinguish between mental and physical stress. So if you put your body through extreme adversity, I'm not just talking about going for a 15-minute walk, but if you're going through extreme adversity and give your body and mind time to heal from that extreme adversity, i.e. 3-4 days of eating properly, sleeping, this, that, and the other, you've created mental resiliency through that process. Now, all I've really done is combine the two for the last 2 years. I've given myself adequate recovery time from every single psychosomatic or stressful scenario. I wouldn't get hammered. I wouldn't drink. I wouldn't do this, that, and the other. After a 100K run, I wouldn't do I would just rest, relax, eat, like all the things. And I believe through that process, things that would have bothered me a year ago just don't. I'm able to handle things a lot better than I was able to before. And I had like pretty bad anxiety. It's still pretty bad, but it's not what it was before. Like now if I reflect back on it, man, I've had anxiety and depression all my life. I've had it all my life. I just never recognized it because, we just live our lives and go through things.
Right.
You almost kind of have to always, at least for me, I'm always kind of like trying to checking myself all the time, my brain, my body, like almost a diagnostic, going through my systems, so to speak, to see what's functioning, what's not functioning, and addressing those things if I can. And if I don't understand how to address them, talk to people who might have a better understanding.
That's a lot. I'm still marinating here what you said, and it does make sense, as difficult as it is. I have no issue saying that, yeah, I have PTSD, and on rough nights, pretty much every night, I have alcohol. And it just helps. But, your comment with regards to not building that resilience, it makes sense. And it's difficult to do, but you've done that. And I have great respect for the fact that you've done that.
I want to add something, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Look, I used to drink a lot, bro.
Yeah.
Like a fucking lot. So for me to make the actual decision when I was going through my divorce, I'm not going to drink because I know what'll happen if I do. I'll get fucked. Now, don't get me wrong. I still drink. I'll have a beer or two here and there, but it's not like how it used to be, bro. I'll tell you right now, man. I used to crave the drink. Now, mind you, I do have sleep issues, but cannabis does help for me in terms of managing my anxiety and stuff.
How is it that people can learn more about you, can learn more about Sachinmotion, can learn about the run across British Columbia, across the country, get involved with your YouTube, your Instagram? How do people track you?
So I have my Instagram, which is at sach.in.motion. And I have pretty much everything, a link tree in my bio, so a lot of people can click onto there to connect to Honor House and make a donation. If anyone wants to make a donation, any donation that's made will receive a Canadian tax credit. I don't touch any of the money that gets donated. It goes directly to Honor House. And for YouTube, you can also go to my Instagram account, and in the link tree in my bio, I have my YouTube channel there. You can go there, subscribe there. I really want everyone who's listening to this, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow on Instagram. Everything's on there. Everything that I'm doing will be there. There will be no secrets. Full disclosure will be everything on there.
And people can also go online if you having trouble with the links and stuff like that. Go to SACHINMOTION.ca.
Yeah, and everything's there too. You can click to donate to Honor House through my website. You can also go through my Instagram and I believe YouTube.
There's people that can help in a financial way, and certainly I would urge you to help. There's people who can help in a volunteer way, and I certainly, again, would urge you to help because this is a huge endeavor for a fantastic cause. But if you are not in a position to do either of those, there really is no reason why you cannot subscribe to the YouTube and Instagram page, which those numbers can make a big impact.
And also, just keep in mind, if you do subscribe to the YouTube or Instagram, yeah, it does help in terms of exposure, but it'll also help you as an individual. I'm just doing what I do on a daily basis. If you're following like a David Goggins, I'm doing the same shit, just not as aggressive. There's a connection to so many amazing people that I'm going to start highlighting through my platform. We have so many amazing people in Canada, and it's a shame that as of right now, a lot of people don't know who they are. The goal is to, how do we say this? The rising tide raises all ships. That's kind of where I'm at.
I hear you. Listen, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time today, but certainly for everything you have done. As your site says, ultimately you're wanting to affect permanent and positive change.
Absolutely, brother.
Amongst our communities who are suffering in silence, and that is too much. I stand right beside you, brother.
Thank you.
I do. And I will be following you along the way. I certainly do hope that our paths will cross when you run out this end of
Absolutely,
the country.
they will, bro. We decided it'll happen.
Absolutely. Let's stay in touch. I want to make sure I continue following this up as the journey continues. So you and I will be talking again.
I want to also thank you for having me on your platform, giving me time and space to share my story. And I also want to thank you for your service. And I want to thank you for a lot of the years that you've... Look, I want to say thank you because you've been working, you've been hitting the ground, and you've been doing what you should be doing. And I respect you, and I love you, and thank you.
Thanks, brother. Right back at you.
All right, bro.
Everyone else who took the time to listen to this, thank you very much. Reach out, help. There's people around you that need help. If you're the one that's needing help, don't be shy. Reach out. My name is Larry Payton. I have your 6. Please have mine.
And I sing, hey, don't go away. There's so much left to do, so many things I wanna say. And I sing, hey, don't make the change. If it rains every single day, I'll fight to blow it all away.